This is my E46 manual 330i Touring, and if you haven't seen the previous video, go and watch that now because I go through the whole car and basically talk about the spec, how much I paid for it, things like that. Because in today's video, I'm going to be going through the whole car and basically doing a full inspection and seeing what's wrong with the car. There's already a lot of things that I know about, and we're going to try and find the unknown today. Obviously, there's things like this. The wings are like that on both sides. There's certain things which I'm going to replace anyway, like the CCV. I'm going to redo the Vanos because they are obviously, if you know anything about E46s, you'll know that they are common problems. There's obvious things like the valve cover gasket is leaking quite badly. I'm going to do the oil filter housing gasket, things like that. So yeah, today we're going to go through the whole car, do basically an inspection. Now, I am by no means a mechanic. This is my first project car, and I do plan on doing a lot to it. But the most I've ever done to a car is servicing my daily car, which is a 2013 3 Series. So yeah, whatever you see in this video is not going to be mechanical knowledge. It's just going to be me sort of guessing and sort of talking from what I've learned from watching 50s Kid. That's literally all I've been watching, and Shop Life's good as well. So if you want to know the proper stuff, watch them. But if you want to see someone mess around and probably break a million clips today, then you can watch this video. I think I'm going to start with a bit of a search for rust. Obviously, there's that. I did look underneath the car when I bought it, and it looks okay, but I've not actually checked behind the side skirt there, because apparently that's a common place for it to rust. So I'm going to jack the car up, get the wheel off, get the wing off, get the side skirt off, see what we can't see. I'll do the same at the rear, because I've actually already had a quick look around the battery box, because that's a common place. There's a little bit there, but nothing we can't sort out. So let's get to it. In order to remove the side skirt, we first need to remove the wheel arch lining. There's a few bolts along the inside, and then a few push pin type things which I'm just using a pick to push through, and then they should pop out. There's a few more nuts underneath, and then you can struggle to remove it from the wheel arch. Got you, you bastard. Look at that. Oh my god. You could grow a plant in that. Look at that, that's bits of the wing. God, I'm making an absolute mess of the garage here. Don't know what that is, bit of plastic. So you don't litter, kids, because it'll end up, plastic will either end up in the ocean or in my arch lining. Oh man. You know what, I'm going to take this straight outside and throw it in the garden. It's compost. How is it not rotten behind it? Because that's soaking. When I went to remove the wings, I accidentally used a T27 Torx bit, and I should have been using a T30. This broke the bit and rounded out 2 of the bolts. I then had to go and buy a Dremel so I could cut a groove in the bolts, and then I can use a flat-headed screwdriver to remove them properly. I can then remove the final bolt. The others I've already undone, one of which you reach in from the driver's door, the other you need an extension which you can reach from inside the wheel arch. Then you can struggle to remove it from the plastic clip on the front of the bumper. So, finally got both the wings off. This side was easy because the bolts all came out as they should, however you've seen my struggles on this side. But it's off. So, there's all that soil and shite that's in there, but luckily it's not rotting behind there. The wing is solid, there's no rot behind there. He says. Yep. So we're fairly solid along the skirt. I'm not taking the other side off, but I can't imagine it'd be much different. Right, after all that faff getting these damn wings off, I think I'm going to talk about the things that I know are wrong with it and the things that I know have been fixed and stuff like that. And then we're going to dig and see what else we can't find. Those wings were a pain in the arse, but I did want to get them off sort of very soon because I wanted to know if we had any rust behind here or down here, because it seems weird to me that the wings completely disintegrated but the rest of the car is fairly solid. But that seems to be the case, which is brilliant news, and I'm really happy about that. So I've got a little list of the things that I know from when I went to look at the car and just from things he's told me. So looking under the rear, there's some suspension bushings. I think the subframe bushings are completely gone. There's rust under the battery box. And then obviously the arches need replacing. There is a kind of serious oil leak underneath, which we'll look at in a minute, which I know there's some oil coming from the valve cover gasket, because you can see it around the edge, and it's probably coming from the oil filter housing gasket as well. Hopefully not the pan underneath, the oil pan, because that would be a pain in the ass. I don't really fancy doing that job. Or hopefully it's not the rear main seal either. The exhaust is blowing, so underneath here where it connects, I'll show you that in a minute. That's going to be the first job. I'm going to try and fix that in this video. When the car is driven, the traction control kind of shits itself, and it basically the car jumps until you turn the traction control off, and then once you've turned the traction control off, you can't really do anything else. You can't turn it back on or anything like that. So I've done a bit of Googling, and because of the lights that are on, I think it's the the wheel speed sensors, sorry, but the cars actually come with 4 of them, so I'm going to change all of them anyway. The front headlights, these ones are fogged up. The indicators, which I took off before, I mean, this one's completely had it, but the cars come with 2 new ones of these as well, so don't need to worry about that. What else have we got? There is no radio inside, which is a bit annoying. The tracking was seriously out on the test drive. Well, not seriously, but it's put to one side anyway. The interior has a fair bit of mould, which obviously can be sorted with a clean. We're missing a lot of sort of liners and under trays. We're missing that side's wheel arch liner. We're missing pretty much every single under tray. There's 2 plates that go underneath the exhaust, which are missing. So I'm pretty much going to have to order all of that. Under here, there's actually these 2 plugs. Hopefully you can see that on the camera. There's these 2 plugs here and the same on the other side, which I have no idea what they do yet. So we're going to have to find out that. It's completely missing the air conditioning condenser, which goes underneath there, which I'll show you in a bit. So it's completely missing that, and the belt, the tensioner for it, and the pipes that go into the top there are missing. You can see where they've been cut off, but it has got the AC, I forgot what that's called, I'll put it on the screen now, but it's got that thing down there as well. And I think that's almost it. Oh, the rear wiper doesn't work, and that's about it for the problems that I know about, and we'll see what else we can't find in this video. Now, this car's done 225,000 miles, and as far as I'm aware, it hasn't overheated. It's had a water pump, so it must have had some sort of cooling issues in the past, but if these engines overheat, then it's basically game over, because it's made of aluminium and it'll just completely warp and change shape. Head gasket will go kaput if that happens. I've done a compression test on the engine, so we'll go and look at that now. Alright, basically a compression test just sort of reveals to us the condition of the engine's valves, valve seats and piston rings, and sort of whether they're wearing evenly. So all I'm doing here is removing the engine covers, removing the electrical connector off the coil packs, taking the coil packs out so that I can then take the spark plugs out, because we need to screw the compression tester into the spark plug socket. The test should also be done when the engine's warm, so I did run the car up to temperature before this. As you can see, the spark plugs are pretty nasty, and some had fresh oil on as well, so we'll be putting new ones in. All I'm then going to do is remove the fuel relay, because you press the accelerator in the test and we don't want fuel getting into the chamber. Then all we have to do is put our foot flat on the accelerator and crank the car 6 times. Then we can put the tester in cylinder number 2 and repeat the process. And here are the results. As you can see, cylinders 1 to 4 are reading dead on 200, and then 5 and 6 are reading about 190. Apparently you should have no more than 10% difference between each of the cylinders, so these are some pretty good results. So there you go, very good results from the compression test. I'm really happy with that, because that's one thing I was worried about. If it had bad compression, we could have a bad valve seals, bad head gasket, any manner of things really. And also, I'm kind of surprised that it's got good compression. I really was not expecting that for a 225,000 mile car. So that's kind of, in a way, giving me the green light to sort of go ahead and try and fix all the other things and get it back on the road. So let's crack on. I'm going to jack the rear of the car up now. We'll have a good look around, try and fix the exhaust leak, look at some codes, maybe take some boots off here and see what's what.
So I'm thinking it's these gaskets that are gone. I mean, they seem pretty shite, to be honest. Look at this. That's the issue, isn't it? Definitely. That's the issue right there. So, I've got to get a new one of them. So while I'm down here doing this, thought I might as well show you what it's like under here. So, there is just sludge and oil everywhere. I tried to clean this with a degreaser. That there, that's fresh oil, that's fresh oil. Don't know where that's coming from yet, but I'm sure we'll find out. I think it's dripping down from the top, from the valve cover gasket or something. So that's not amazing, is it? And if we look here, yeah, it's fairly sludged up here. Whoa, look at that. This is going to need such a good clean. These power steering pipes are covered in it. I actually saw, yeah, so see there, the end of that one is rusty as, so I'll replace that. Doesn't look like we're getting any leaks from the steering rack, although it's kind of hard to tell. The subframe could do with a bit of paint there. Those bushes, not too bad. They are known to go though, so they'll probably get replaced. Go around the front, the anti-roll bar, a bit rusty from the surface, but I think it's okay. Wow, that is crusty as. Look at that. That is seriously crusty. It's like Krusty the Krab. Oh, coming off. Great. So yeah, as you can see, I've not taken any under trays off. This is just what it's like. This is exactly how I bought the car, with all these trays missing. So we're gonna have to source all them. That is the space where the air conditioning unit should be. I think that's about it for under the front. Lots of leaks, lots of rusty bits, but you know, that's what you expect from a 20-year-old BMW. Right, under the rear, I've just taken the rest of the exhaust off because I didn't really want it hanging sort of half on. And I got covered in all this, which was fun. But under the rear of the car, we can look at the diff and see there's sort of all this crustiness, not crustiness, but like sort of sludgy stuff. However, it doesn't look like we've got an active leak from the diff, so that's good. Now we get to the rust. So this here, you can kind of see in there, I'm pretty sure that's, I think that bush even has a bit missing from it. But that line looks nice. I wonder if that line's kind of new or been changed at some point. But yeah, so that's the rear that's one of the rear subframe mountings, which is obviously quite rusty. The rear subframe itself, I mean, I don't know if that's just surface, how bad that is. Might be able to paint it. That's obviously gonna need changing. The rear wheel thing, the wheel well for the spare wheel, that bracket, I don't know what that bracket used to hold, but it's kind of non-existent anymore. This is part of the rear subframe, which is actually the rear jacking point. I've used it to jack up the car quite a few times and it's not collapsed, so that's a good start. That probably just maybe get away with painting that one as well. Let's have a look over here. So this is the battery box, so that bit's rusty. So I'm wondering if I just take literally the whole subframe down and completely underseal it basically. That is a big job. And I don't have a lift or anything, I'm doing this on stands, as you can see over there. So we'll decide that later on. But at the moment, basically all bushings, I'm gonna need to take the whole subframe down anyway, aren't I? So all the bushings are gonna get done. If we look over here, this shock doesn't seem like it's original, so I'm guessing that's changed. I did have paperwork for rear shocks or something to do with rear shocks, so that's good. That bush, that looks like it's not been undone ever, really, so that bush obviously needs to be replaced. That brake caliper is fairly crusty as well. Like I said, I'm going to sand down, wire brush down the brake calipers and repaint them. That rear disc has literally no lip on it, so hopefully I'll be able to save that. Okay, so we're looking here. Is that a brake line? Which is extremely corroded. What else have we got in there? You can see the subframe at the back just there, which looks a bit corroded, but I'm gonna get the subframe out anyway at some point. So this is the worst bit of the rust, I think, and the door as well, the front door. But I reckon that bit's repairable. That's not structural at all. Rear trailing arm bush, I don't think that's ever been replaced. No, has it? Has it, bollocks?
You can actually see here that the bush is so far gone, it's even coming out of the trailing arm. So that's what the underneath of the car looks like. For a 225,000 mile car, I think that's okay. It's fairly good going, because to have that mileage, it's definitely just been driven all year round for almost 20 years straight. So we're doing all right there, because the subframe, whatever car, would need new bushes in anyway. So I'm going to take the subframe completely down. I'll probably do the same at the front and redo that all. So I think from now, let's start taking things apart in the engine bay.
So there, the belt is just completely shot as well. All those cracks in it, that's literally looks like it's about to go. It's bumpy. You'll notice there's not a belt on there, because that is where the belt would sit for the air conditioning condenser, which would be here. But like I said before, that's completely missing. You should be able to see it down there as well. And it's not. Apparently it's had a new steering grevo as well, so that's good, because that's a job I don't fancy doing. But you can see down there that, I think that's power steering line, power steering fluid line, which is very rusty, so that needs to get changed. There is a big sludginess, ugh, right there. That's possibly from the valve cover gasket, which you can see. It doesn't actually feel that brittle, but it's definitely leaking, so it needs changing. Now these coolant pipes don't actually look that bad. That's the upper one, there's the lower one with the sensor in. So oil has obviously been dripping onto that. There's our thermostat, not too bad. That's the Vanos oil line. Is that leaking? I've got a new one anyway, so we'll see. Right, let's get the airbox off and see what lurks beneath. To remove the airbox, we just need to loosen the metal clamp which is on the boot behind it. Then we can undo the clips around the edge and remove the top half of the airbox with the MAF still attached. You want to be careful with the MAF, because if you get any dirt on the sensor, it can make it not operate properly. Then we can remove the old air filter, and there's just two 10mm bolts holding in the bottom half of the airbox. Then I'm going to remove the upper intake boot. So I'm going to take out the vacuum line from it. You might need some silicone spray for that. And then I'm going to loosen the clamp at the back, and I can detach it from the lower intake boot. Here we have our intake boot. So this, hopefully you can see, basically the main places for cracking and stuff are all in the grooves there. You see with my light on it? All in the grooves there, usually around there. That's looks okay. I think this will have been replaced at some point. Next I'm going to remove the Deezer valve. I basically just want to check the condition of this. I've got paperwork for a Deezer kit that has been fitted, but I just wanted to check anyway. As you can see here, the flap operates as it should, but the only thing of concern really is the seal around the bottom is very flat, so if I can find one of them, I'll replace that. Then I'm going to remove the lower intake boot, which has two clamps this time, one on this little piece you can see. This is also in pretty good condition, so I probably won't be replacing this at the moment. Next to come out is the idle control valve. So you can see in there, it's full of black carbony type stuff. But basically when you shake it, it should make that sound. Okay, so I can see there the throttle body. Looks, there's like a black ring around it, so I'm going to get some throttle body cleaner and we're going to clean that, so I'm going to be taking that off when I do the CCV. Right, let's see if we can't see something down here. So the dipstick tube here with the red end, if we follow that down, I've got a feeling that could be leaking at the bottom there, because there's lots of oil seepage around it, and the top of the side of the engine there is just covered in oil really. But basically I'm going to remove the whole intake manifold, this whole section, take the throttle body out. That electrical box will come out properly, because I want to remove it to do the CCV and do some coolant lines on the side of the engine, which I want to do.
Well, there you go. That wasn't actually as bad as I thought it might be. The only thing that was a surprise is the missing pulley. I think everything else I kind of knew about really, and when I say everything else, there's not actually that much. There's the leaking valve cover gasket, which is very obvious, and then there's obviously lots of oil down below, which I'm going to sort of clean off, and then we'll hopefully be able to see where that's coming from. But I mean, I was going to replace the CCV anyway. I already wanted to do the coolant hoses underneath. The other control valve rattles like it should. The throttle body does look like it needs a clean, so that'll hopefully make the car run a bit better. But other than that, no massive surprises really, which in a way is a surprise. So in the next episode, hopefully, we are going to be replacing all the parts. You might have thought it was a little bit pointless me just taking all those parts to put them back on, but I just wanted to do it just to have a mess around really, because apart from servicing my daily car, this is the most work I've ever done to a car, and this is a big project that I've taken on and I'm excited to get on with it. So join me in the next episode and make sure you subscribe to the channel, because I can't wait to get this back on the road. I'm determined to get it back on the road and get an MOT. So subscribe to the channel, please like the video, leave a comment. If you've got any advice or anything like that, just leave it in a comment down below, because I'll definitely read them all, because I need as much help as I can get.